So in front of us here, we've already got a question. How do we score a parcel like that? You don't score a parcel like this. So this parcel, we've had it up on the channel before. It was basically a cutter's offcuts and scraps and 2 hard basket. I'm sure all of you have something similar. I've got one as well. There's just, you keep going through your rough and you find some stones that you know you can get something out of, but you just set it aside and say that one's pretty difficult. So that is exactly what this is. Not for me. This is for a cutter, which means for a carver, you can actually scoop these up if you've got friends that are cutters and they set aside some stones that look really good. And you can just pick up a lot of things. And I've already picked a lot of the eyes out of this. This has been a parcel on the channel in the past. And we've already gone through and we've already cut our money's worth out of it, actually. So we're really just going through and hoping to find some good things. We can have a look at the different fields of opal in here. It's a huge collection, though Gary does tend to stick to Lightning Ridge, so you can see that there's a lot more Lightning Ridge material in here than anything else. Looks like he dabbled a bit in Coober Pedy. I think he hates Boulder. I don't know what he thinks about Mintabie. I think he hates Mintabie as well, but I'm not too sure. Polish opals. Everyone likes Mintabie until it starts breaking up in your hands. True. Everyone likes the idea of Mintabie. Gem Mintabie, you can rarely beat it, but oh, it's a heartbreaker. Mintabie in general is just a pain. An absolute pain. I just bought a bunch of microchips, as in small chips of opal. Was going to try to float them in epoxy. Thoughts are get the right epoxy. That's the most important thing you can do. Getting the right epoxy will set you up for success. Getting the wrong epoxy will mean that you're going to have nightmares either straight away or very near in the future. You just got to select the right one. I have been meaning to do videos on it, but I've been working on other projects that'll come up on the channel soon, some that have taken a really long time. So amongst all the little short videos that I do have some projects that are in the go. So for the mosaic work with the resins and chips, I would just suggest that you use the correct resin. So epoxy 330 is one that I really like for all my doubleting or any kind of that kind of work. But there's also UV resins as well, which you just have to flash a UV light over just to get it to solidify at the end and cure. A collection like this, if you can find a cutter that's going to throw out a whole heap of scraps like this, things that we can easily get something out of carving, then you want to be chucking in just a couple $100 at max to be able to scoop these ones up. Unless you can see something that they've clearly missed, you know that it's been picked through heavily. Like some dodgy sellers will pick through their stuff anyway, and you've always got to keep that in mind. People might be just selling stuff that they can't be bothered cutting. But when it comes to something where they just don't think they can get anything out of it, but then you come along with a rotary tool and you can, that's when you can get some good profit. It's just hard to do because you got to find the right seller. It's got to be a genuine kind of guy like Gary is. So this is Gary Davis from Cut Opal. This is the scraps after a first pass of the scraps, because I think I picked out at least 5 to 10 stones out of this one. And that one there, I like the look of. So that's a nice bit of crystal. It looks Coober Pedy crystal. That will cut a nice little stone. No worries at all. Just not on a set of cabbing wheels. But that does not concern me. We are setting that one aside as well. So that's the thing. When you're carving away, you really can take advantage of some of the cutters that want to just have these nice, easy to cab stones. Like you can see here, there's clearly bits that they've just thrown in here that is just potch. Like that one there is just potch. That disappears. But then there's cool bits like this. I mean, that might not look like much, but if that cap can work out, I've already thought of a interesting little carving for this one. That's actually probably a pretty good stone at the top there. I mean, it would be under half a carat if we just kept that part, but with some of the crystal down here, I reckon we can get a really unusual piece out of that. So that's already 3. Cruising along finding some good bits. Oh, these are always fairly enticing when you can see that there's colour going around both sides, but this stone, oh, will that clear off? You never quite know, but if it does, that's a proper dark lightning ridge green opal. That's a beautiful flash. I've worked pieces like this with this kind of flash. I was really into this flash a year ago or so, and I was hunting stones relentlessly with that look, and they do work out really well if you can get that to scrub up. I see a bit of a potch gap here though, and we can just give it a quick grind over. Let's just do that. Let's just do it. I've got my little stylo sent over by Mike with a pretty aggressive little 80 grit burr. Actually, this is the big one. This is the biggest one from my I've got a pack of just 80 grit burrs, and I'll just see if we can just give this a little bit of a scrub up. I'll do it offset from the camera so I don't spray the lens. Hopefully this isn't too loud on the microphone. Oop. Yeah, it's not cleaning up overly well, is it? Oh, you know what? It's worth a little bit more of a check. It'll be a bit out of focus because I'm offsetting the lens. I don't want to get covered. Nah, I don't think that's gonna... Instead of fully clearing up, what this one's gonna do is it's gonna have little bubbles of potch in the surface, which can still look cool maybe for a picture stone, but it's not gonna be a it's kind of like the Boulder. It's not gonna be a full-faced precious opal. But let me just give it a little bit more of a grind just off the side of the camera. Oh, you know what? It's going to be borderline, which is why I chuck things like this in my too hard basket. Especially nowadays when I'm wanting to get videos and stuff out of some of the cuts. I do tend to stick to ones that I'm more confident will work out. But this one could be interesting. I'll put it in the interesting pile. It's in the interesting. This is incredible color, just really small. This one we could do something with though. If I bring it out, nah. So this one's one of those deceptive underwater ones. This one I think will crumble. It's not like an opal crystal. It's like sugar crystals. It's very ready to crumble apart. Very ready to crumble apart. So that's an unfortunate one. I'll set him off to the side. Oh, something's just landed on my fingernail there. Incredible color, just incredibly thin. Could make a killer doublet, but will need some sort of backing most likely. And look at that. That's the kind of stuff you like to see. But it is thin. Need a ruler on the bottom of that pile. I don't tend to use rulers too much. I can eyeball it if I want to know if it works or not. Or if there's some that we want to have a look at in terms of size, we can use the calipers, though I'll have to move that out of the way because the focus range is down here. So I'd always use these. I hate digital calipers. If anyone ever gives me a digital caliper, I will send it back at twice the speed they sent it to me with. But this is a solid set of calipers and a really cheap knockoff one. I've got a lot of calipers actually. Fingers for scale, yeah. Actually, it's not as dumb as it sounds. So what I've got is I've measured my hand span, and at work I use my hand span all the time to measure things. I know exactly when I do a 20 centimeter hand span, and it works really well for me. So I've never calibrated my fingers in. So let's have a look. So about 1.5 centimeters. God, look at my finger like this. Does it seem like a weird shape? It seems really weird. I cut my nails the other day, so they're good. Playing guitar. So yeah, 1.5 centimeter on the index finger, just for reference. So you can see here, like a stone like this, like that, 1.5 centimeters wide at the widest point. This is a pain. When you come across something like this is just sadness. This is sad because, I mean, it's got great color. There's got to be some sort of specimen thing that I can do with this, but that it's got like a spine of sand through the guts, and that is very upsetting because that's basically going to go right through to the other side. It's the same material as this right here, and you can see how close. So they've tried to grind this one and went, nah, that's a dud, but it looks kind of cool. I can't throw it in the bin. I'll set it aside, and in the end it's been set aside so long it ended up with me. So yeah, that's not bad. That's a pretty big boy, but almost impossible to cut. This would be a picture stone at best, which you could still do. You could tidy up those edges and bezel set that or something. And it's an unusual piece. It could work out. I'll see if I can get a polish on it. Aluminium oxide might help on that one because of the sand in the face. I don't think cerium's going to help me with that one. Or yeah, slice it down the guts and 2 good doublet pieces, as Don says there. It's that's also another way. Now this one's nice, but it's got the ginger whiskers in it. The classic ginger whisker. So those are not going to come out if they're the deep ones. And this one you can see is going all the way down. You can use a light and shine it in from the side, and these will cast a shadow. And the length of that shadow, you can judge the depth of the whisker. It also looks like it's got a little bit of crazing possibly. If I get it out of the water, we get it out of the water so that thing can focus, and I've got a towel at all times on the arm of my chair, and we can see it here. Oh, okay. There's just one possible edge of a ginger whisker there or something. So it's not crumbling apart, and it's very thick, but I betcha those go deep. That one there's just coming out, but the other ones, they go pretty deep. And they don't tend to destabilize the stone too much. I never find that it fractures along those ginger whiskers. They do seem pretty built in, but those two are really in an annoying position. You can see there, that's what the stuff looks like. I might even just scrape a bit of that out and just XRD it and see what it actually is. I think it's some kind of iron oxide. But this one is a really nice stone if I can get something out of it. Unfortunately, it's going to have those orange lines through it. There's no way around that. That can go in the maybe pile. This is an easy one. This is an easy crystal stone. It's a little bit thin, so probably a doublet. But I reckon that will make a killer doublet. It's got like a little cap on top of it here. This looks a bit... This is a lightning ridge crystal, I think. Could be Coober Pedy, but I'm leaning towards this one being lightning ridge. And that little cap on top, take that off, and you'll have a nice blue crystal. That one's going in the definitely cuttable section. What is this mess? What is this? This is always indicative of Baldy. Old Baldy. Not Baldy as in my hairline. This is a little piece of Boulder Opal, which is amazing because Gary hates Boulder Opal. What the hell? I did not expect to see this. That's getting set aside just because it's going to be the only piece, and it's got the nice little veins going all through it. This might be a good piece to just test a new treatment method that I've thought of. See if I can blacken that ironstone. Yeah, that's actually a piece of Boulder Opal. So this must be collected for a long time because you stopped cutting Boulder Opal a long time ago, I think. Good old Baldy Opal, my fave. Bestseller Nick Hoops on Facebook. If you're interested in Boulder Opal, he can sell your stones much bigger than the one we just saw. Oh, he's also the guy that painted the picture behind me. Let's change camera. Face and camera. The one just behind me here. I'll get my noggin out of the way. Actually, I can go big screen, can't I? Big screen. Big screen. That one's a Nick Hoops original, one of his early pieces. When he becomes a famous artist, I am going to be rolling in cash, though I would never want to sell it. So, got that one framed. Well, got that canvas put up. Back to camera mode. Back to camera mode. Continue the hunt. So I always look out for these kind of ones. In Lightning Ridge, if you get a really thin bar, you can actually get it quite clean a lot of the time. It seems to get less sand shot than Coober Pedy. So even that tiny crack of purple, I do see potential. But that one's gonna be slim. It also seems to have a little bit of crazing or just some cracks in the edge. And that's easy. That's an easy stone. Small sub half carat by the time I shape it. I could actually oval that one. I'm not even sure which way to make the face. But that's an easy stone. But tiny. We want bigger. We want bigger. What about that one? It's bigger. Might be a slice in two unless I can see some sort of creative shape, but that's one that will clean up pretty well, I think. I think this one's been set aside just because it's got... Did he mess around with a rotary tool or something there? Was that a practice and then he threw it in the bin? That ridge just there, take that off. I reckon we'll get green underneath. Let's check it out. Let's check it out. We have the tools. We have the tools and the ability. So, we'll just run over it with the 80 grit. I want to keep it nice and wet because right now I'm not wearing a mask, which is the first time I've done any kind of grinding without a mask in more than a year, which is never great. Oh, what's that sandy bar through the middle gonna do? Alright. What about this end? Nah, some of that's definitely going to clean up. I'm just not sure about this top part. We'll basically cut it underwater, actually. Don't want to dunk the entire thing underwater, but here we go. There, we can do it on camera. Whoa. You know what? That could actually clean up. I just don't know what this sandbar is doing. This is such an overkill size burr for this stone. But it's an 80 grit sintered. This thing will outlive me. You know what? I'm gonna keep that aside. I don't know if that sand is gonna cut in on an angle all the way under that first bar of color and have a second bar underneath. But whatever it does, I reckon I can get a stone out of that. Maybe two, because I might slice it down the middle. See, that bar goes underneath and then there's a second one. So I reckon there is something in that, and it could be a bit of a artistic carving as well, because it's already a weird shape. Or I just slice. See, I know things like this are going to be hard to get too much out of other than doubleting, which... You know what? It could still really pop after a doublet. I can't even do a little bit of a texture. You can do a texture trick where you just colour the back in for one, but because of the crust on both sides, that's not going to help me out. I have to remove the crust first. Or I could carve that into a butterfly or something. That one we are setting aside in the maybe pile. This is a bit of crystal that's a bit more of a conglomerate, so it's got a mix. It's like a 50-50 mix of sand and opal. They look cool, but you're not gonna cut anything out of it, which is really unfortunate. Nice little specimen piece. What is this? A little bit of sand sneaking in through the back. Most likely a doublet, because I could remove that sand and then just thicken the stone out a bit. Because this one, it would just be too thin if you left it like that. So you've got to reinforce the back. Sometimes doubleting isn't about just getting the colour to pop. It's actually about providing the stone a bit of strength to make it usable. So that's one that I could easily get that sand out that's peering in, and then doublet that one. So maybe I'll have a doubleting pile as well. Oh, but yeah, this is how you go through a scraps parcel, and every now and then you find something good like this. A little bit of red Coober Pedy, really thin. Probably have to double it even though it's not even a crystal, or slice it up into lots of little stones. But you can see even here the red is starting to peer through. So even ones like this, there's no way someone with cutting wheels is going to do anything with this. But for us, I've worked thinner stones, and the only problem is going to be the strength of it. So if I can strengthen that out with a doublet, it will be a perfectly good stone. Won't even look like a doublet when you set it, just because it's not crystal. It's always strange to doublet a material that's not crystal. It almost seems to defeat the purpose. And honestly, if you're running a business, it probably is a waste of time to work on, but I'm not. So this is just a side thing on top of working a normal job. Though I don't know how normal my job is. What medium other than potch do you recommend if you're making doublets or triplets? So for the backing, because the triplet top, you've got very little choice. You just need to get a lens for that. For the backing, what I've actually, when I was really into doublets and I didn't have a good supply of anything, I went to like a welding store and used welding glass. So the lenses that you can replace in a welding helmet, that little shield, you can basically just straight away use that. It's normally a reasonable thickness. You might need to take it back a little bit, but it's nice, clean glass, and it works really well for doublets. I think I've got some lying around somewhere, but I don't know where, so I can't dig them out now. I'll bring them up when I make a video on doubleting. Oh, now this one. This is the Lightning Ridge gamble that rarely ever pays off, but when it does, you're over the moon. Because it looks like it was a witch's hat Nobby. But the sand is pretty evil on this witch. So we are going to have to get really lucky to clear that out, but that could be a fairly decent long-ish cut project. Being really careful on this, even if it's really uneven, I don't mind. As long as I can get a nice good edge on it, that always gives me hope that maybe one day when I've got the skills, I might be able to set something with it. Or if there's just certain areas that I can just do some clever slices and get a stone out of it, because this one is, with our calibrated finger, that's about 1.5 centimeters wide, so it's a big stone. Or at least big enough. That one is going in our interesting projects bundle. Coober Pedy. If anyone's just a beginner and they want to get into cutting colour, go with Coober Pedy. I find that it is the most forgiving stone ever. It is very forgiving. Now that one's real thin, but it's got a nice back on it that I can do something with. Tiny but bright crystal, that can just go in a... So I've also got a thing that I set aside with chips and tiny little offcuts and fractures and splinters and all sorts. Just anything that has colour, because that I would actually break up even further and use it for a few little projects, inlay projects. So that can be set aside as well. Do you have any recommendations for where to buy rough online? So I've been meaning to update the website with a page, but not enough of the sellers actually got back to me. We had like one. So online, eBay, I've kind of given up on. I gave up on that a long time ago. You can go Opal Auctions, opalauctions.com, but it's another crystal. It's, I don't know. I just, it feels like I'm buying from international, even though the sellers are local to Australia. But if you're international, I guess that doesn't matter at all. Wow, that's a big chunk with some ginger whiskers that scared off the cutter. That we're keeping. Otherwise, Facebook is really kicking off. Facebook is flying for sellers. The only problem with that is that there's a lot of dodgy sellers as well. There's a lot of dodgy sellers, but if you can pick out the good ones, like, I think I've got a lot of good sellers that I will put on the website, but they specialize in specific fields. Yeah, it really comes down to the opal that you're after, which fields, what kind of style of cutting you want to do. Different people specialize in selling different things. You just want to avoid the people that are selling stuff that they couldn't cut, or that they know can't be cut. This is an interesting multi-layered Coober Pedy. That one I'm setting aside, even though it's going to be hard to get any of those bars to work. Opal Sales Australia and Opal Empire and Jewelry are the two best options for like dedicated opal selling sites or groups on Facebook. Oh, and Blacklighters, yes. Dirk Pit. I thought I'd actually already mentioned them. Blacklighters, of course. So Blacklighters used to have a website, not on Facebook as well, but yeah, Blacklighters. If you can get a Blacklighters live auction, then you can pick up some absolute killer stuff for very little. If you check out, I think it was like the last video that I've put up. The last video I've put up was a stone from a parcel from the Blacklighters, and it was a cheap parcel, like less than $100, and that shell came out real nice. Actually, where is the shell? Where is the shell? It's somewhere over here. This shell here. So this came out of a parcel from the Blacklighters that I won in an auction, and it was, I think it was like $90 Australian dollars, so like 70 cents US dollars. But you can get things like this for just criminally low price. That's a nice one. I've still got to think about what I'm going to do with this one. But yeah, that one's already been nicely scrubbed up. Just have to chuck him in the water so that you can get the focus on him. But yeah, so that stone, if I divide the price up over that parcel, that stone probably cost me $20. Tips on selling. I need to get some stuff sold. I keep buying and yeah, the bank account goes down and the stone collection goes up. For selling, I think the best thing you can do is, even if the stone isn't great quality, just put up photos and a video and you'll make people so happy that they'll buy it just because they're confident with what they're getting. A lot of people struggle selling stones, and a lot of the time it is because their listing is just like a lot of people like me will not even give their listing a moment's thought. It'll just be completely gone as soon as you see like one foggy picture, and that's it. Oh, red. What is this doing in here? And how did I not pick it up before? I mean, it's got some sand spots, but that's an easy stone. That's the easiest stone in this entire parcel. They haven't even taken it all the way down yet. God, saw some sand spots and gave up on that one. We're keeping that one. That could be the best stone that we found today. Alright. I think we've done our hour, and I have to be somewhere at 10 o'clock and should probably shower and get ready for that. But if I just drag back over, so out of stones that we could cut still from this parcel, I've still got all of these that are ones that I am certain I can get something out of, and then I got small piles of chips, small piles of doublet material, and then of course some of the random interesting ones that we were setting aside like this. So there's quite a few stones in here, most of them crystal. Some of them, like that one, could be a nice double-sided stone. Oh, and then there were easy ones like this, which once I get rid of that last bit of potch could look pretty good. So I've got quite a number of stones to play with here, which is good. That's video sorted for the rest of the year. 2023, done. I'll catch you guys later. More videos to come. I've got some Ethiopian opal coming up. I've got Boulder Opal coming up. I've got whatever we just found then coming up. I've got some Shell coming up. Got a lot of things. Actually, and I'm going to play with some of that international opal that I picked up. So, all the leopard opals and all that kind of thing. And then I'm stockpiling stuff for doubleting and all the other resins that I need. Because I've got... So this is the number one doubleting... Oh, I can show it here as well. The number one doubleting resin of choice. It's strong, it's fairly water resistant, and it won't discolor even after a really long time. I want to do an UV aging test on it just to show you guys the difference between different resins, but that I need to do at work, and work is mental still at the moment. So yeah, have a good day, everybody, or whatever's left of it. And I'm guessing everywhere in the world it's still the weekend, so yeah, have a good end to the weekend. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next video.